Today I'm going to be talking about Destiny. I get a lot of people that used to pop into my stream on a regular basis asking, hey, why don't you talk to Destiny anymore? Or saying, Destiny scared you away, and so on and so forth. All sorts of nonsense. I come from the fighting game community. Very, very rambunctious group of people. From 18 years old until the time that I retired in 2014, I was in the fighting game community. That was well over 10 years. I don't think anyone could ever scare me away from anything. I've always been a pretty adaptive person. To the contrary, I think I was one of the few people who was willing to stand up to Destiny, and I think it actually bothered him quite a bit. Destiny has a whole goal. His whole purpose is to be the smartest person on Twitch, and he does a lot of tactics in order to become that. I thought so for a while. I got by it. Because he is rhetorically pretty accurate most of the time when he wants to be good faith. He has a decent vocabulary, and he does research at surface level such that he can beat almost anybody who does surface level research as well. The problem is, because of the fact that he has the ability to speak really fast and to speak around people, typically he's really good at repurposing and rephrasing conversations into his areas of comfort so that he doesn't actually have to debate you. Look at someone like Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro or people like that. When they would do debates, rather than actually engage with the thing that you're talking about, they tend to move towards a talking point that they're comfortable with. And if you bring up something that they're not prepared for or that they don't want to discuss, they just say, oh, we'll get to that. But first, and then they'll go on into their talking point and you'll never get to that. I'm one who's pretty well aware of that. So when I was debating Destiny for the first time, I was debating him as a fan. So I was being particularly charitable to Destiny. So our first serious interaction, I would say, once I got very much more into the debate sphere, we were talking about a bunch of things, and I started noticing how bad faith Destiny was being in hindsight. Throughout that debate, he would do things like randomly play the piano. So you have to acknowledge why you're doing that. There you go, hitting that piano again, huh? So then you have to
hit the piano, but no, you don't have to say the reason why. You wouldn't say it's because of race. You say, well, because these communities are...
While I was talking to him, and even though I was conceding his point, like, okay, I hear what you're saying. I get why you want to do it this way, and I'll do it that way. He's playing the piano, and then immediately says, hey, so yeah, we want to do it this way. It's like, I already agreed to that. But because he was playing the piano, he wasn't listening. Then he began taking apart an argument that I was making. We were talking about the riots that were caused by the killing of George Floyd.
All right, here's a perfect example of it. The day that George Floyd died in Minneapolis, people gathered together to peacefully protest, and they started marching towards the police station. Mm-hmm. While peacefully protesting, which is their constitutional right, police began tear gassing and injuring them and shooting them with rubber bullets. After they got shot by rubber bullets and tear gassed and beaten with batons, people began running to the nearby Target to try to get milk for their eyes, because that seems to be pretty effective against tear gas. The Target said, we will not sell any milk to you. Target had a Back the Blue. They had a relationship. I used to have a picture of it, where they had an ongoing relationship where they were doing fundraisers for the police, and the police in return were a lot more closely related with their loss prevention and so on and so forth. So in that case, would you say that violence against that Target is justified?
For the purposes of stealing milk, maybe.
And there were videos that were circulating at the time. In the video, one of the people said, hey, why are you guys going so ham on this Target? And they said they wouldn't sell us milk. This was somebody, while you saw people running in and out of the store, and he was coming out and someone had a film and they asked him, and that's what he said. So I bring that point up to Destiny, and he's just like, no, where's that video? Now, I had saved a whole bunch of video, and that was one of them. But what I learned later on is that for Facebook, a lot of those videos they took down. And once they take down a video, if you don't have it downloaded to your computer, it's gone. So then the link expires. And so at this point, I don't have the evidence on hand, but it's something that I saw with my own eyeballs. Now, we're talking about that whole incident, and Destiny began arguing.
If the police do something bad to people, and then people retreat from the police, and there's a building that's owned by a business that refuses to serve those harmed protesters. Mm-hmm. Those protesters, as a response, have free reign to trash, destroy, and loot that building.
It's the fact that we already have a bad history. It's the fact that I expect you to sell because that's what you are as a store. And since you already have this history, it feels like you're taking part in what we feel is unjust treatment of our peaceful protest. And so as a result of that, like, you bear some of the responsibility of that. He's like, so any neighbor that does it, and it's like, no, not any neighbor that doesn't give me milk. It wouldn't be like that because my neighbor doesn't have an expectation to provide this good. So, okay, so you're just saying anytime anyone doesn't help, and he would just always try to break down each individual part. And originally I felt like, man, he's like being dishonest. And I realized, no, he's probably missing the logic of just combining, like, that it's all of these three things together.
Trailed around while
So you're saying that if people feel violated because the store doesn't sell you milk, so you're saying that if anybody has a long-standing relationship with the police, and the way that you prove this is by way of a fundraiser, that they should be able to be attacked if the police acts in an immoral manner. Do you think every single business that had Back the Blue hung up somewhere in their store, do you think that all of those businesses could have been right?
So what's, you can't see that these things can have a compound effect? Is this really that hard to understand?
A great analogy for that would be like if I said, in order to get pregnant, someone needs to be ovulating, need to have unprotected sex, ejaculating to the person, and that's going to create the conception process. And someone says, so every time you ejaculate, you create a baby? Like, no. You're saying anytime a woman ovulates, she's just going to be pregnant? No. And so if you break down any one of those individual elements, of course, then the answer is going to be no. You need to look at them as a group. And I said that several times. Like, no. We're not talking about any of these things individually. And he couldn't grasp it. Probably just lack of intelligence or just bad faith. At the time, I wasn't sure if he was just not capable. And later on, I DM'd him and I told him, like, hey man, like, this is the way this argument went. And I wrote it out in the form of a mathematical thing where it's like, hey, we're saying A plus B plus C. You can't just say A or just B or just C. It's A plus C. The quantity A plus B plus C equals D. And he was just like, oh, I get it. So it's like, yeah, whatever. So I thought, okay, maybe it was just a misunderstanding. And at this point in time, I really did look up to Destiny quite a bit. And so I kind of looked at him, and I think I was being particularly charitable to him. And the entire time he was just raising his voice, acting stupid, acting like a fool, like just going ridiculous for no freaking reason.
So you're saying, even though Target has...
Wait, hold on. No, wait. So you're saying...
What the freak are you talking about, man? I think we should get rid of all of the systemic injustices, okay?
Okay,
but...
I love it. Reductive, but sure. I guess we can agree on that point.
So I'm going to be condescending, and then I'm going to ask you another question.
Go ahead, be condescending.
The racial implications
I am
that are
in
still
denial.
Of course, obviously.
My
so
white
the
brother.
Other thing is, the other thing.
My white brothers aren't racist. Okay?
I got you, sure. So the other.
No, this was something that was. This was a pervasive belief, bro.
So your argument is that if
I don't think racism is a problem in this country in 2022. I just don't. I don't think
okay,
it's
exactly.
It's keeping us from doing anything. We might disagree. I don't think it's keeping us from doing anything. Nowadays, like, fucking Republicans these days are okay with fucking gay people, generally. That's what I think about. Like, you want to be happy now, but I want to wait 10 days. Because as a white moderate, that's just what makes me happy. Okay.
Wait. You said
you're not gonna sit here and convince me. I got you. Yeah, you went longer than I did. You're not gonna sit here and convince me.
It's like, wait, hold on.
No. It becomes a problem of proportional response. Let's say that I go to a store and
I said the word quantity. I meant degree. Jesus Christ, bro! Like, just let me finish a damn sentence.
And you have no idea what the freak redlining is.
I didn't know everything about
No. It's not that you didn't know.
I want to discount the experiences that Black people have.
But that's what you're effectively doing.
Well, then fuck me, I guess. The white moderate strikes again.
Yeah, I know, and it's crazy.
At the end of the day, I'm tribalistic. They look like me, okay? They look like me. How can I not take their side?
And I would be talking to him calmly. He'd interrupt me more. He would say, "Oh, you're talking more than I did," even though he had talked more than I did. And it was just really, really an awful conversation. And I walked away from the conversation pissed. I walked away from the conversation upset and feeling like, yo, I thought this guy was so much better than that. Here he was, whatever. He started asking me questions that I felt like were intentional clip chimp questions. He would do things like, for example, we were talking about consent stuff, and he asked me,
for instance, if I live in a country, and I'm curious, we'll see if you agree with this, using your same example. I live in a country where the age of consent is 18. Let's say that I also happen to believe that about 18 is maybe where people should start fucking adults. Mm-hmm. Sure. Let's say that I go to a country where the law of consent, the age of consent is 2. What? Does that mean that all of a sudden it's moral for me to have sex with 2-year-olds?
Okay. I guess it gets really complicated, right? Because
No,
ultimately, no.
Wait,
Okay,
no,
okay.
it's not complicated. It's very simple.
Sure. Do you want me to
it's
respond
not
here or no? Do you want me to respond here or no?
Oh, okay. I don't
Okay,
think
I'm gonna
that this is
try.
a good response. Okay, good
All
luck.
right, give me a chance, right?
And of course, that became one of the biggest clips on my channel, which of course, if taken out of context, sound pretty awful. And it was like, I know you know better. I know you know what the point that I was making, and I know you know better than to interrupt me in the middle of making such that people are going to start, reacting in a terrible way. From that interaction, I started to develop a different idea of who Destiny was, but still not entirely sure. And so I gave him a few more chances. And during these debates, again, I'm still being particularly charitable to Destiny.